I wish we could rely on just adults to do the right thing and not have to put this responsibility on the kids to tell. But we can't just put the responsibility on the adults, because as we witnessed at Penn State, an example for this entire country, that we need to empower kids. We need to give kids a voice on how to speak up and tell if this is going on safe touch, unsafe touch, safe secrets, unsafe secrets, and to keep telling if this happens to them. Because right now in our society, we are giving the sexual predators the upper hand. We're giving them the power and control over our kids across this nation, across this world, to silence our kids. Because after abusing a little child, they don't go and tell them, now go off and tell your teacher, go off and tell mommy what I did to you. No, they silence children. They tell them, this is our little secret. Nobody is going to believe you. You'll have no proof. I'll hurt your family. But they're not getting the other important message. The message on not to keep these secrets. On you won't be in trouble. You're not to blame. This is not your fault. Why am I so passionate about this issue? Well, you see, as a young child, my father always said, enjoy being a kid. You grow up fast. And he was right. We did grow up fast. My childhood seemed to fly by, except for the moments in my life my father didn't know about. The moments that I kept a secret. I was just a little 6-year-old, spending the night for the very first time at my best friend's house. Went to sleep, to wake up in the middle of the night, to her uncle that lived in the home, walking into the bedroom. Of course, being the little kid that I was, looking up at him, I thought he was just checking to see if we were going to sleep. But then he closed the door, came in, got down to where I was sleeping on the ground, and for the first time in my life, sexually abused me. I didn't have words to put language on what he had done. I just remember complete, utter confusion. And I didn't tell anybody. That very first time, he didn't threaten me. Did I go home and run home the next day and tell my parents what happened? No. I kept it a secret. And the sexual abuse continued, and that's when the threats began. And I kept this a secret, afraid as a young child that I would be in trouble, that I did something wrong. Afraid, as he told me, he would come get me. He knew where I lived, which he did, just down the street. The sexual abuse, eventually, after 6.5, one cold January day, just headed over to my best friend's house just to play. I'm now avoiding sleepovers, because sleepovers were when terrible things happened. But I was safe during the day there. Nothing bad ever happened during the day. At least that's what I thought. Sitting there as a little kid playing with Barbie dolls, 6.5 years old. More than 20 years later, I can remember this day picture perfect. Clear as day, being this little 6.5-year-old. My best friend leaves to go use the bathroom. Playing behind this dollhouse. She comes back in, says something to her when I heard the door close, but she didn't respond back. When I peered my head over the dollhouse, standing there is this man that had been sexually abusing me for the past year. I remember clutching these Barbie dolls in utter confusion and panic. Well, to spare you the details, this man went on to lift me up onto a bed, fighting, kicking, screaming, my best friend locked out, trying to get in, sexually abusing and eventually raping me for the first time in my life. I can remember this day picture perfect. The shoes he tossed on the floor, the closet doors open, thinking he was going to kill me. With his hand over my mouth, afraid that I would not live to see another day. I could still see that man's eyes burned in my head. But you see, I didn't run home and tell anybody what happened. Didn't say a thing. No, I was eventually given an IEP in the school. A week later, I put my hand through the window of my grandparents' house. I was labeled behavior disorder by the schools. They spent thousands of hours for years on me with school psychologists, school social workers, trying to figure out why I had so many anger problems. No one was asking those important questions. Has anyone ever done anything appropriate to you? Nope, they avoided that question. They weren't educating me about that in schools. I was hearing all about tornado drills, bus drills, fire drills. They were teaching that every day to us. But in my childhood, I never had to run out of a burning building. I never had to duck and cover from a real tornado. I knew what to do in those situations. But no one was ever educating me on this important issue, which is why I never spoke up about it. 8.5 years old, my saving grace came. We're moving. I'm getting away from this monster. Little did I realize there was another monster in my life, someone a lot closer to me. An older teenage cousin. Once again, waking up at age 11 years old. Older teenage cousin sexually abusing me in my sleep. Panic. All that stuff that came back up as a little kid. The sexual abuse of my cousin continued. 11, 12, 13, Thanksgivings, Christmases, while I babysat his 2 younger brothers. Threatened, this is our little secret. You will destroy our large family. No one will believe you. So what did I do? I kept my secrets locked away in this little childhood diary. The only place that seemed to be that I can get my pain out and hide it under my mattress for nobody to know the horror that I had been enduring. 6th grade, as I'm still being sexually abused, we were taught another very important program, DARE. I became a little DARE graduate. I knew what to do when I was approached with drugs. How to say no to drugs. They taught us the 8 ways, right on that card. The 8 ways to say no to drugs. But as I stand here before you today, I ask you, where were the 8 ways on how to get away, on how to tell today? They never came. So I continued to stay silent, not telling anybody about what had happened to me in my childhood. Yet I knew what to do when stranger danger came walking up. I was warned all about that. As a matter of fact, I even wrote about it in my little childhood diary. Just after being sexually abused, I wrote here as a little 5th grader. I sobbed the whole way home. Over and over in my head, I thought about what just happened. In school, a guy called Officer Friendly teaches us about stranger danger. Never to answer the door when my parents are gone. I thought people like Brian jumped out of bushes and attacked you at night. I was never warned about my own family. They don't teach you that in school. And it was reading this message as an adult finally stuck out at me after going on a crusade, writing these books, become a public speaker about this. Finally made me realize not only do I want to be a voice for the voiceless, but we have to do something to protect and educate our kids. The answer lied right here in my own childhood diary about where I wanted to go with this mission in my life, and I felt my calling of not staying angry and bitter towards the men that had sexually abused me. Instead, being able to forgive them and do something positive with my life. Something positive to protect these innocent kids and educate them and not give the power and control that we currently across this country give to sexual predators. So I went to my state lawmakers in Illinois and asked them, we need to start educating our kids. I don't want another generation, another century of children to not be educated on this very important issue as we continue to fail them year after year after year on what is going on. I brought up Penn State when I sat down here. But there's Penn States going on all around us. We just don't see it. We put these blinders on and just want to pretend it's not happening. But it really is going on in our own backyards. I guarantee every single one of you in this room, every single one of you that can hear me right now, knows somebody that this has happened to, even if they have not come out and spoken out about it. You see, if we don't start educating kids, empowering them through age-appropriate curriculum on this important issue, they're going to be like so many other generations of kids, keeping it a secret, locked away in their little childhood diaries, and sitting down with mom at age 30, 40, 50, 60, and telling them, hey, mom, this is what grandpa was doing. Hey, mom, this is what the neighbor up the street was doing to me. And as you probably know with sexual predators, they don't stop after one victim. They got one kid silent. They've got many more silent. And if we can get that one kid to put a stop to it in the first place, right when the grooming process begins, that child can save so many more, dozens of more kids from horror by putting a stop to this. That's why it's so important. It took my younger sister coming to me when I was 13 years old. She was 11, telling me that our cousin was also sexually abusing her. As I say, they don't stop after one. They will go after as many children as they possibly can until they are locked up and found guilty for this. This is why we need to empower and educate our kids. You cannot put a price tag on a child's life. There are dozens of resources out there, programs. As I have been on a task force in the state of Illinois after this law passed in February of 2011, Governor Quinn signed it. And for the past 9 months, we just submitted in May our final report. This task force, we did not reinvent the wheel and recreate curriculum. There are plenty of programs out there that we discovered that schools can implement around this country, that schools can bring into their schools to start educating kids on this. Age-appropriate, research-based. Research also shows that it's far greater to have in-house staff teach this. When you have your teachers that have been trained during their school institute days, bringing in-house people to train teachers, train your administrators, your guidance counselors, your school psychologists, the nurse. Train these people to come into the classrooms, teach these kids. Say they taught it in October. 4 months later, the kid is crying out in January saying something happened over their winter break back at home. And they have that, being able to identify that person in the school that originally taught it to them, rather than possibly that person that only comes in once a year that they don't see face to face. But there are those other programs, those nonprofit agencies out there that are willing to come into schools, but schools just don't want to touch on this issue. They want to avoid it. It's a topic in society that we've avoided for far too long, and it's time we finally do something about it. I've gotten this law passed in 4 states, 2 more pending with it. And my mission is not to stop until we get all 50 states passing this law, because I don't want any more little Erins out there keeping diaries of secrets like this. But instead, I want kids out there standing up, speaking out against these monsters, and stopping them before they harm another child. Thank you.
Erin, thank you very much for your powerful testimony. That was excellent. It really focuses in on why we are here this afternoon and the need to move forward on this legislation.